Alright, this is Operation End Times. I'm your Jedi Warrior for Jesus, Ben Hellisted. This is a continuation of the Building the Ark series. I'm going to call this Sea Level. You know, there's a saying out there, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. But sea level, that's it's ground level zero, where the waters meet the air above, but it's also where dry land forms out of the sea. But when you come up out of the abyss to sea level, you can see evil. Sea level is seeing evil. So I made this drawing. I'm still kind of working it here. You know, I'm going to stand up here. I think it might work better. But this is sea level over here. And below sea level is the deep, the abyss, the Leviathan. It's female. The blessings of the deep are the breasts and the womb. The breasts are shad. You know, in the previous video I said the deep is the word shad, but that's breast. But the word deep, I'll have to look that one up, but it's in Genesis 49:25. It talks about the deep, the blessings of the deep. But one of the blessings is the blessings of the womb, which is the Hebrew word rakam, which is mentioned 44 times out of 44 times. So, you know, that's those 44s. And likewise, the deep, which is the mystery, the deep mystery within, which is God comes within and then manifests without, is the Hebrew word 60:13, and it's in Psalm 64:6. But that deep, the inward mystery, amak, which is A-M-O-Q, is mentioned 16 times out of 16 times, which is 4 times 4 and 4 times 4, or the 44. So once again, you know, there's the mystery, even of the patriarchal line that we were examining, how the wives and the women, who the mothers are, is what's being covered up, the queen bees. And it's important, my friends. You know, they just came out with an article of how they want to use 3 people to form a baby, the DNA of 2 women and 1 man, you know, but that's kind of all in play, the rib of Adam. But looking at this diagram again, I was just trying to frame up the flood. But if this is sea level, the dry land, behemoth is up here. Using the measurements from the story of Noah's Ark, the ark was 30 cubits high, and it says the waters rose 15 cubits. So that's about 23 feet, just enough to probably make the ark float above the earth, you know. But like I said, a lot of people insist that the waters had to have gone 15 cubits over the highest mountain. And you know what? I'm not really going to go against that theory, because like I said, all these events, when the switch is flipped and this macro washing cycle happens, what you see is the dirt, the filth, the evil is washed away. Just like in the washing machine, the clothes make it through all clean, but the dirt goes down the drain. That's one of the manifestations of this repetition of time and space, is it is a cleansing. But anyway, here's a diagram. It just shows the earth, which is 7,000 miles in diameter. But God should be in the center of our lives, but the shadow is that most people think God is out there in the heavens, you know, out there somewhere. You know, He's not here watching us, knowing what we do. But anyway, just looking at these things up here, you know, these are measurements, and you know, when you look at the air above sea level, you know, it's only about 6 miles deep, or 11 kilometers, and then above that you can go another 62 miles, which is air where you can't breathe and survive because the air is so thin. But that's about 100 kilometers. And then one person even said you can find some kind of air molecules 348 miles above the earth. But Mount Everest is 29,000 feet, which is about 6 miles. And that's why when you get to the top of Mount Everest, you need oxygen tanks, because you really can't breathe. But just looking at the Earth being 7,000 miles, I think there definitely could be enough water to cover even the top of Mount Everest completely around the world, because 6 miles of water is really nothing compared to all the water that's on Earth. So anybody that, you know, was trying to prove it or disprove it, I'll say, hey, guess what? It could be done. But 2 things. God said He would never completely flood the earth again, even though there's flooding everywhere. So it's not as though there's not flooding. There's just not going to be a complete flooding of the earth. But so what? People that think, hey, we're safe or something because of that, I don't know what the heck they're thinking, because there's like 20 different ways to die. You know, brimstones, earthquakes, lightning flashes, tornadoes, hurricanes, you name it, man. Destruction comes in multiple forms. There are many paths to this destruction, but there's only one door, one path to salvation. And that, my friends, is Jesus Christ, which is what the door into Noah's Ark was all about. And once again, I'll say the mystery of Noah's Ark is that the Illuminati wants you to believe only 8 people made it through. But I'm telling you, the beast, the cattle, was all people. Some in the shadows, some not. But it was the multitude no one could number. There was more than 8 people on that ark that made it through to the beach on the other shore. Transitioned when the waters come together, there's turbulence, the washing machine's in the wash cycle, you make it through there and you make it to the shore. You know, Paul was on his ship and a wind blew them through the turbulence and they crashed the shore, and the bow of the ship made land and had a firm hold. And even the people in the back that got blown out, you know, that grabbed onto a piece of gopher wood, you know, a false belief, still made it to the shore. Why? Because they were on the boat. They were smart enough to go through the door. There are some people that don't go through the door. They're going to have a hard time in the wash cycle, because if you don't go through the door, that means you're going down the drain. But just looking at this, here's just like Noah's Ark, where I think the heavens are actually 45 cubits up, and that's on a spiritual level. Nothing to do with 3D carnal. But for what it's worth, there's the Great Pyramid that somebody built, you know, the handiwork of man probably. There was the Tower of Babel, which they said was a mile up and 3 miles wide. And then there's Mount Everest, which is 6 miles up. So I'm telling you, when we look at this event in time, okay, the most powerful meaning of what's going on is the wash cycle that's happening on a spiritual level. So whether you got the washing machine set on low, medium, or high, doesn't even matter. You know, the exact height that water comes up to. You know, in 2011, when that earthquake hit and there was a tsunami in Fukushima, the water was only about 15 cubits high, 23 feet, and it destroyed 40,000 people. So, you know, if you're going to sit there and worry about how high water comes up, you know, physical water, then your mind is trapped in the 3D carnal thinking of the cube. Because the true understanding and fullness of what's going on with this cycle is on a spiritual level. And on a spiritual level, it's basically picture 3 rooms. A room above where Jesus had the supper, that's the upper knowledge, you know, and then there's the middle room, which would be earth, the dry land, the land of the shadow, but there's air to breathe. And then there's sea level, where, you know, you go down below and you might not be able to see evil anymore when you're down in the abyss. And that's where you're blind to the light, but your eyes are open, both eyes, to the darkness. But spiritually, the air and waters above is male, the abyss, the waters below, is female, coming together, where, you know, it's a consummation where water and fire are the same thing. Some people get burned, some people get a dart to the heart, and, you know, as far as all these Gog and Magog armies gathering, they're not fighting anybody in the light, because we're sealed in a pine cone, in an ark, in a bubble of protection. The people that are fighting the Battle of Armageddon, they're all dark, killing each other, and they're killing each other in blindness and stupidity without any knowledge or light to guide them. That's what's going on out there. And their own inner deep comes out in its ugly, man, you know. So that's why, you know, if you don't want to be part of that, you need to turn around right now, start walking towards God and finding out who God is. Well, anyway, part of what's happening in the cycle is God comes halfway. Like King David came across the bridge and he forgave Shimei, the mighty man. And that's another thing that's kind of unfolding, is the mighty men. And that's kind of where the lineages come in. Jesus came across the waters, and Peter came out of the boat, but Jesus reached out when he started sinking and picked him on up. When Moses took the children of Israel across the Red Sea, the waters parted. The children of Israel went across on the dry land, but after they got through, the Pharaoh and his armies, even though they said you can go, they came back because they had evilness within them. And the Pharaoh said, my desires will be satisfied. And even though he saw this wondrous sight of the waters parted, and most people wouldn't go down in there, he charged down in there, and the waters came together, the turbulence, and it was death to him because he had nothing but darkness, evil, hatred, and violence inside of him. The wash cycle, once again. You know, for those in the light, the desire of our eyes will be removed. You know, the rib that was created, which was the desire of Adam's eye, you know what? It's going to be removed. You know, how that manifests, only time will tell. But, you know, the event is a circle, and bubbles are circles. And we all live bubbleized, hedged in existences. Bubbles can be both positive and negative. You know, in the book of Enoch, it talks about how after the fallen sons of God, the angels had taught men these wicked things that they were not ready for, spiritually or mentally. You know, how to make weapons, how to use money, eye makeup. They said, hey, the earth became distorted. It became a bubble of distortion. And guess what, my friends? From the minute you're born into the distortion. From the minute you open your eyes, it's the distortion that's coming in through your eyes and ears and programming and framing up your brain. And I tell you what, if you want to get on board the ark, you're going to have to break down a lot of what you've built up, the mountains and the hills and the valleys, and make your mind smooth, a fertile field where God can put his foot down, where you can be plugged in, heavens above, earth below, and tap into the divine circuit, and literally levitate and fly and float above the earth when this event happens, you know, and therefore being safe. You know, the distortion. You know, the prodigal son. A lot of people have been wondering what's going on with that. I will tell you, my friends. You know, Jesus, he told the Pharisees, he said, you know, John the Baptist came to prepare the way, and he didn't drink wine, and he didn't gorge himself on food. He was out in the wilderness, and you said he was of the devil because he wore camel's hair. And he says, and me, I'm hanging with the tax collectors and the sinners, and I'm drinking wine, and I'm eating food, and you call me of the devil. So it doesn't matter how we come. You're gonna point your arrows at us, and you're gonna try and find fault with us, you know. But the point being is Jesus kind of, if you look at the prodigal son, where the older son lived by the law, did everything right, but he wasn't walking with God. He was only trying to count his pile of gold he was going to inherit on the earth, you know. But the prodigal son. And the older son was getting 2/3. The prodigal son, the second oldest son, was only getting 1/3, but he kind of said, screw it, took his inheritance and squandered it, right? But what happened, and this is a reflection of that washing cycle, is he eventually came to his senses. His eyes were opened up, and he was eating with the pigs, the swine. And that's when he realized, hey man, I'm better off being a servant for my father, you know, than eating with the swine. And he started walking back home. And guess what? God came out halfway. His father came out halfway and killed the fatted calf when his son was returning, you know. But what I'm going to tell you is, in these end times, you know, everybody kind of looks at Revelations and at the 144,000, the virgins that were never defiled by women. And God bless the virgins, and God bless you if you're part of the 144. And you know what? The 144, they got their mission for their time, and I'm sure they're going to accomplish it, so God bless them in every step of their walk. But a lot of people get twisted out of shape because they're like, what? I'm not part of the 144, or they get their ass checked because somebody's claiming to be in it. I've never claimed to be a part of it. But what I will tell you a mystery, my friends, is that in these end times, one of the mysteries of God is that things that are hidden, you know, are what are actually manifesting versus what you actually see in front of your eyes. So like when Jesus came, everybody expected a king sitting on a royal throne, but he came in a manger with the cattle, you know, the women, as a servant. You know, likewise in these end times, it's the prodigal sons. returning to God. And part of our mission is to eat with the swine, the tax collectors and the sinners. And those are people that are swimming in the dark waters, or at least in a shadow. And it's part of our mission, my friends, is with God's help to fish out those last few lost sheep and fish that God's fishing for, man. And in and of ourselves, we can do nothing. But with God, we are capable of doing everything. And that's why Jesus told his disciples, cast thy nets. But it's the army of the prodigal sons, my friends. And I know you're part of it, you know. I am, you know. Why? Because we've already experienced the abyss. We've been to depths and done things we're not proud of. But now we can walk sturdy as a tower of power with a firm foundation, and the finger of God can, behold, work miracles with us and through us. Because that is our mission, man. And it ain't no 144,000. There's millions of us, man. And we're going to manifest a multitude that can't be numbered. And we are the ones that are going to push forward the kingdom of God. But God bless the elect, man. All right, hey, this is Operation End Times. I'll see if I got the energy in me to push out one more video today. Building the ark, my friends. God bless you all.